Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Hines On Air, your weekly dose of inspiration, motivation, and real-life entrepreneurial stories. I'm Matt Hines, your host, and I'm excited to have you join me on this journey. From building a successful law firm to venturing into other industries like real estate and social media, I've experienced both the triumphs and the challenges that come with entrepreneurship. I've learned firsthand the importance of resilience, adaptability, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. On Hines On Air, we're diving deep into the world of business, law, and personal growth. Join me as I chat with incredible guests who have faced adversity, defied expectations, and achieved extraordinary success. We'll discuss their strategies, their mindset, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply someone looking for a little inspiration, Hines On Air is for you. Remember to subscribe, like, and leave a review whenever you listen to podcasts. Your support helps us reach more people and continue sharing these incredible stories. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, Matt Hines. We are back with another Hines On Air, and I have been super excited about the upcoming podcast. We've got a legend in the house. Now, everybody will recognize his face.
Matt will go and... I know. What's the matter, sweetheart? You having trouble breathing? Come on, get up! Get on that line! Get on that line!
You're nothing but a goon for hire.
What did I tell you?
Your karate's a joke.
He's the handsome man that we saw in Karate Kid. He was on Bold and the Beautiful. He's been on Cobra Kai. He's a legend. And now he's teamed up with his also very capable and powerful wife. And they have written a book giving success on how to create a successful relationship. So everybody, please welcome Mr. Sean Kanan to the program. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, buddy, we've been excited about you, brother. I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
I have to apologize in advance for my wife. We both had been dealing with a flu, and I thought she was fine, and she woke up this morning and was just getting pummeled. So she has asked if I can do this solo. So I appreciate you doing the interview.
No, man, absolutely. I appreciate you being here. And it's funny, man, because our podcast is fairly new. We're getting this thing rolling. I don't know if we're on episode 20, 25 or anyway, but we experiment around with different ideas. We've had attorneys, businessmen, whatever. And one of the ones we did in the beginning in season 1 was me and my wife. And we just kind of talked about what we've done, what we think successful. And it was one of the most popular ones. So apparently it's a good topic. Yeah.
Well, because listen, people respond to authenticity, right?
Right.
Because somebody's famous or they're on TV. It's the dynamic between you and your wife was probably really interesting because it was so authentic and real.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, man. Well, listen, before we get into it, I've got to ask, what's happening with Cobra Kai and the movie industry and all? I know that's not the purpose of the podcast, but we just can't resist.
Well, Cobra Kai is the final series of episodes for season 6 are just about to come out.
Nice.
Wrap up the show.
Okay.
I know there's the new Karate Kid movie with Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan, which I believe hasn't come out yet. I don't think it's come out yet. As far as the industry as a whole, a lot of people were affected by the fires out here in Malibu and the Pacific Palisades, Los Angeles. But to the best of my knowledge, it hasn't halted a lot of production. But certainly a lot of people were gravely affected by that tragedy, and we're still dealing with it out here.
For sure, man. Do you still do any training in the martial arts?
I do, yeah. I was training right up until I left to begin season 6 of Cobra Kai. I was training privately in Taekwondo, and I went down to go do season 6, and I had a massive tear in my rotator cuff, and he said to me, "Look, I can do the operation, but if I do, you're not going to do Cobra Kai." And I said, "Well, let's put the operation on hold."
For sure.
Had a big fight scene with Billy Zabka, Johnny Lawrence, and then I came back to LA. It was like, okay, I think we need to do this surgery now. My arm's going to fall off.
Oh no!
And man, it was a complete success.
Nice.
It was just a blessing that I had such a talented surgeon. So I'll be resuming my training probably sometime in the next 60 days.
I got you. And what all styles have you studied? Has it always been Taekwondo?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I only just recently started studying Taekwondo because I wanted to just kind of brush up on my kicks.
Yeah.
It was real favors kicks over hand techniques. I started off in Shotokan karate, and from there I moved to something called Shito-ryu, which was taught by a gentleman named Sensei Fumio Demura, who also happened to be Pat Morita's stunt double.
Oh, wow.
What I learned was about as close to Miyagi-Do as you can, which is kind of ironic given I played, a member of the Cobra Kai, which is something very different. It's more akin to Tangsudo, which is Korean.
Hongsudo. Interesting. Okay. All right, good. Yeah, and so then you've just gradually gotten into, so you started out with more of the Japanese styles, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And then
studied off and on since I was 15, different styles. There have been times that I've trained more, times I've trained less, but martial arts has always been something near and dear to my heart, something that I try and espouse the tenets of martial arts, humility, courage, self-discipline, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating study. I used to absolutely worship that area. I started with Taekwondo was my first. And then and I loved it. And then we got into a little Kung Fu. And then there was a guy that had experimented with ninjutsu. And then, I don't know, I got to touch different areas. There was one, it was called Bakwa, 8 trigram boxing. And there was a teacher up in New York. This is like there are probably like 2 people like this on the planet. Because so many of them get watered down, unfortunately. And he fought a street fighting style of Bakwa. And you'd study Wing Chun, and you'd study, what was that stuff? It was a very hard form of Kung Fu. It was almost karate, like, hard, but, and then you went on to the Bakwa, and it was, mesmerizing. It was
effective stuff, huh?
And I mean, it took them years. They were like, it was 15, 20-year veterans in that stuff, but it was amazing. But yeah, the martial arts have been a fascinating part of my life. I can't say that I'm as in shape as maybe 20 years ago, but I did love it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. All right. So you and your wife have teamed up and written a book, The Way of the Cobra Couples. Right? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. I have a copy of it right here. There we go.
There you go.
This is the 3rd installment in the Way of the Cobra franchise. Cobra is an acronym. It's formed from the words character, optimization, balance, respect, and abundance. And the books are all award-winning books. The first book, Way of the Cobra, really, it's set up that I'm the sensei and you're in my dojo, and the chapters are divided into belts, and the book offers the strategies and philosophy that I use to make some very significant changes in my life. I hit a point when I was 50. I was 40 pounds overweight. I was struggling with alcohol addiction. I was unemployed, and I needed to turn my life around, but quick. And I figured out how to do it. And in the course of about a year and a half, I lost the 40 pounds. I won an Emmy for creating a show called Studio City and a bunch of other good stuff. And I would trade all of that away for the one most important thing that I gained from that entire experience, which was becoming meaningfully happy.
Mm-hmm.
The book uses some autobiographical stories from my life, and they are tried and true strategies and philosophy. And I hear from people literally all over the world every day that they have managed to change their life greatly using what's in the books. And I always say that the information in the books is brilliant information. And I say that because it's not mine. It's all of our information. There are in the universe certain things that are just true. I am just the humble messenger. And sometimes you can hear the same thing again and again and again, and it doesn't permeate because of how it's delivered to you. It's kind of like when you're 15 or 16 and your dad might have some really good information, but you just can't hear it because you're in that, I'm gonna show him who I am kind of, mentality that a lot of young men get into. And then suddenly you hear it from somebody else and you're like, wow, that makes so much sense to me. And so Michelle and I had collaborated before writing on Studio City, and we won an Emmy together, so we knew that we were a good writing team, and we knew we wanted to write something else. And we said, why don't we take the strategies and philosophy from Way of the Cobra and the sequel, Welcome to the Kumite, and incorporate them into a book about relationships. So Way of the Cobra Couples is not just for people looking to turbocharge the relationship. It's for people that are also single and are ready to find the one. And, whenever you talk about a relationship, you need to have both sides. And so that's what's unique about Way of the Cobra Couples as opposed to Way of the Cobra, Welcome to Kumite. Now we've got my co-sensei, my wife, Michelle, and you get my perspective on things and you get her perspective, and we agree on a lot of things, and there's some things we don't agree on. And I think that in the areas where we don't necessarily agree or we come at an issue from a different perspective, everybody's going to find a way to relate to some of it.
Right on. Yeah, it's certainly needed in society. I don't know. I hear 60% divorce rate, and then even the ones that stick together oftentimes aren't happy, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but, they're kind of just struggling through for the kids or whatever.
Ask somebody and say, they did a study and they asked very, very successful people. They said, what is the single biggest factor you attribute your success to? So you start thinking, okay, maybe it's generational wealth. Maybe it's the fact that they were born into a family where they were already at a financial advantage. And that would certainly be a huge advantage, right? But that's not it. Maybe it's going to an Ivy League college. I mean, certainly, going somewhere like Harvard or Princeton, and the people that you meet there and the education you get would be something that would be a huge force multiplier for becoming successful. But that's not it. You say, maybe it's a guy or a girl that just is super focused, gets up at 4 a.m, just works like a dog. That's not it either. Almost to an individual, they all attribute it to their choice of partner.
Yeah.
And that is what is one of the most critical aspects of anyone's success, who their support system is, who their partner is. And, I can attest to it in my life that, I say in the book, the right one will make you, the wrong one will break you.
Mm.
And I got the right one, and I've seen what it's like having the wrong one, and my life changed 180 degrees. And I'm absolutely convinced that that is largely attributable to my relationship with my wife. I'm a big Tom Cruise fan, but I do think that Tom Cruise unknowingly did a lot of damage to relationships in Jerry Maguire. You complete me. And the reason is that you don't need someone to complete you. What you need is to find someone who facilitates an environment that allows you to be the very best version of who you already are. So I know I'm talking a lot here.
Oh no, you're making great sense. I'm enthralled with. Please.
But I'm going to share something with you. One of my bucket list items, especially for last year, was I wanted to do a TED Talk, right? And I was trying to figure out how to do it, and I just wasn't getting any traction. And then Way of the Cobra won an award, and we flew in to go get the award, and I met somebody who turned out to be a scout for TED Talk, and I wound up doing a TEDx. Okay, so TEDx's are kind of like the minor league of TED, and then TEDs are the international ones, right? So I did a TEDx.
Okay.
And the topic of my TEDx is the Journey of Unbecoming. And it hasn't come out yet. I'm going to finish the story because there's a cool end to this story. But the basic idea of my talk is that, from the time we're young, society and our parents are telling us we have to become something, right? We have to become a success. We have to become something. And I postulate the question that maybe we've been given a bad roadmap. Maybe finding true, meaningful happiness and success isn't about becoming something, but it's about unbecoming. Can you remember who you were before you were told who to become, by society, by TV commercials, by everything. So it's kind of like taking a look at yourself and stripping away everything that isn't your authentic self until there is your authentic self. Now, here's the kicker on this story. So I flew down to Dallas, I don't know, maybe 5-6 months ago. I did my TEDx, and I started seeing people in my TEDx class, their talks were dropping, right? And I kept calling the people saying, "Hey, what's going on? Where's my talk?" And they're like, "Sean, we don't know. It hasn't been approved yet because TED has to approve, the TED organization has to approve your talk, right?" So I start thinking in my head, wow, maybe they're not going to approve my talk. And I got a call, and it was funny. I got this call just as I was having lunch with a friend, telling him about my TEDx and how I was concerned that it was going to get turned down. And the head of TEDx says, "Sean, this hasn't happened in 5 years." And I said, "No way. They turned my talk down." She said, "No, they didn't turn it down. They want it to be a TED Talk. And they not only want it to be a TED Talk, they chose it as their editor's choice. And they're going to do a dedicated publicity campaign around it and promote it throughout the world to their 40 million viewers." And I was,
Wow.
yeah, it really was something else. And, I know that I would not have been able to give the talk that I gave if it wasn't for my wife, because of so much that she's brought to my life. And so it just goes back to why it's so important for you to find somebody that is going to be that partner for you, that's going to allow you to be the person that inside you can be. And if you got a relationship that's kind of, I don't know, on the rocks, or maybe, somebody's fallen asleep at the wheel or it needs a little kick in the ass, this is the book for you. You can get it on Amazon. And I'll tell you what, if you don't like it and if it doesn't help you, you call me up and I'll give you your money back.
Cool. Dude, you have said so many great things. It sparked so many ideas that I don't even remember where to start. All right. So, first off, I'm in complete agreement with you. When you've got a partner that's contributing to the motion and is not sitting there kind of stopping you. I mean, if you imagine a husband coming in or a wife coming in and saying, "Hey, babe, I got this great idea for a company. I want to do this and that." If that partner is negative about that idea, or is like, "You know what, we're already broke. We can't afford that. We can't do that." Or if you've got a partner that's like, "All right, honey, I know a friend. I'm going to call this guy. I'm going to get him to help with this idea." And he contributes to the flow. I mean, you're right. They can become great things. I think you and your wife, my wife and I are also an example. We work well together. But it looks like from all y'all have accomplished, I mean, there's no doubt y'all are combining energies and creating new worlds together because you're just both moving.
We are. And I think another thing that's really important in relationships is you don't want to lose your individuality and sense of identity. In other words, you both want to come together and form a cohesive relationship where it's kind of like two ships. You got to make sure that your ships are sailing in the same direction. Yeah. You also don't want to allow yourself to dissolve into the relationship to the point that you're compromising. Maybe compromising isn't the right word, because there is compromise in a relationship, but you don't want to eradicate your individuality. And so, I always say to people, it's real easy to get caught up in the Sean show because, I'm the actor. I'm the one that tends to get a little bit more of the recognition and everything. And so I am very cognizant and careful of understanding that my wife is her own being, and she has hopes and dreams and things she wants to achieve that aren't necessarily always the exact same things that I want. And there are times when I lead and she follows, and there's times when she leads and I follow. And I am just as happy to follow her because she's a brilliant leader. And I think you have to be able to follow to be a great leader. You just look at the military, and, if you're not somebody that's able to take an order and execute it effectively, you're not able to give an order. And so we're real aware of that. And we make sure that we are not only achieving things as a couple, but we talk about, hey, what do you want to achieve, this coming year? Well, that's not really, huge on my horizon, but what is huge on my horizon is helping you achieve it. And so we do a lot of that.
Yeah, very good. One thing my wife and I did before we got too serious as a couple, we met and we did something we call it an admin scale. We do that with companies and stuff, but you basically lay out what are your goals in life, what are your purposes, what are you going to do to achieve those? Because if you're not on the same page, man, you're kind of wasting time. You don't want to get 5 years into it and realize this wasn't practicable. So
We
you,
call it the State of the Union.
okay,
Look,
yeah,
the president.
The president is constitutionally obligated once a year to give the State of the Union. And so Michelle and I, at the beginning of every new year, we sit down and say, okay, this is what we accomplished last year. This is what we didn't. This is what we want to this year. And I think also it's important, sometimes we think something is important at one point and you realize, you know what, that's not as important as I thought it was. And it's also about letting go. There's things that I was, I actually, it's funny. I just happened to have, my goals list right here.
nice.
And I'm looking at, I achieved a lot of them. I exceeded a lot of them, but there's also a lot that I didn't accomplish. And now in retrospect, a lot of the ones I didn't accomplish, they weren't as important as I thought they were. And so, when you talk to your partner at the beginning of the year and you really hone in on what's important for both of you and what's important individually, it gives you a roadmap to where you're heading.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I agree with you. We look back at our list, kind of like similar to your goals list you just put up, and are shocked at how many got completed. And it's not that we doubted they would get completed in the beginning. Some of them are pretty big projects that take years, but we're checking off 75%. And it's like, wow. And I think what's also important is to create the new, bigger games. Always reaching for something together versus, okay, we're done. We can relax now. There's no relaxing really. It's what's next? What's more exciting?
Yep. Yeah. Just when you accomplish a goal, you're at the top of that mountain for that goal. And, you want to take a good second and look around and enjoy the view and give yourself a little pat in the back. And in no time, you want to be craning your neck upward.
That's right. That's right, man. What would you say, Sean? All right, let's say I see this. The couple, they're maintaining. They don't really communicate anymore. They'll talk about the weather and the kids and you're going to pick so-and-so up? Yeah, I'll get him. And that's it. There's no real communication. And they've sort of gotten into that rut. What's the starting point you give for somebody like that? Is there any advice you would say, all right, guys, let's start with at least this?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It's communication.
Okay, yeah.
Communication seems like it's kind of a vague, all-encompassing thing. I would say think back to what it was that first attracted you to your partner. And I'm not talking about necessarily physicality. I'm talking about what were those internal qualities that you found attractive in your partner and made you decide you wanted to spend your life with them. And chances are those qualities still exist. They may have gotten a little covered up or they may have gotten a little bit obscured by life sometimes. But if you can remember why you fell in love with your partner in the first place, it kind of recalibrates and resets your mentality when dealing with them. I think mutually acknowledging that there's a challenge, that there's an issue is important, not just burying yourself in process like getting the kids, going to work, doing whatever as ways of not talking about what needs to get spoken about. So I would say that it's communication and understanding that everybody's life's messy. Everybody's.
Right.
Everybody has times when, maybe things aren't quite as sexy as they used to be. And, your level of frustration because of external events or maybe interpersonal events is elevated. But it doesn't mean that if you're both willing to work at it, that you can't not only fix it, but you can come out the other side stronger. It comes down to, are you dedicated to the viability and the perpetuation of this relationship? And as long as both of you are dedicated to the relationship, there's hope,
Would you start?
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I'm just saying when both people have checked out,
Right.
and when it's degenerating down into disrespect and behavior that is openly antagonistic and all that sort of stuff, then it's time to either bring in a professional or decide if you're both still committed to the relationship enduring and understanding that the relationship cannot continue to endure in its current state.
Is that something they're communicating between each other, or is that sort of a mental reflection they do on themselves?
Well, I think it's a little of each. I think
Okay. Yeah.
both partners need to have that kind of come to God moment with themselves going, look, I know there's something wrong here. And if I know it, my partner knows it too.
Right.
It's having that conversation with each other, because it's a pretty safe bet that if one partner is dissatisfied or unhappy, the other partner is too, whether they're articulating it or not. And, for those people who say, well, we're staying together for the kids, trust me, the kids knows what's going on too.
Right.
You're not doing them any service. And when the kids leave the house and the two of you are left alone, you're going to be like, who the hell am I here with? Who am I living with? And it's not going to get better. So I always used to tell my daughter and my stepkids, who are like my own children, and Michelle would tell them too, our relationship comes first. Because if my relationship with my wife isn't working, I'm not going to be any good as a father to my children. Okay. The life source of my ability to be the man that I am comes from my relationship with my wife, and everything sort of springs out from there, including my ability to be a good parent. You got to put your oxygen mask on first. You can't say I'm doing it for the kids. That's an excuse, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been through a divorce, and my ex-wife is actually a great person. We're still friends. And it's tough. I will say it is tough sometimes when the kids are there. We have one child together, and he's absolutely perfect. And it was a struggle. When is it the right time to actually separate? Are we stronger for staying together? Or are we stronger for admitting that we shouldn't stay together? Like it was tough. It was mentally, and it's been a while now, so I can talk pretty openly about it. But at the time, it was tough. Mentally, it was a challenge.
I mean, relationships are a bit of a crapshoot, because
Yeah, that's right.
two people usually go into a relationship and everybody's in love. And, on some level, you probably erroneously think that you're mentally going to stay where you are, your thought process, and the thought process of your partner is going to stay where it is, which means that you guys are both in sync. And human beings grow continually based upon life experience. And sometimes people grow in different directions, which, a relationship that worked out at one point no longer is viable as the two partners begin to change. And that's why it's so important that you have shared experiences together, and you're constantly creating new referential points in life where you both are experiencing the same thing. And those experiences are unifying for the relationship, instead of each partner maybe experiencing something different, causing a change in them, and it kind of causes a wedge. So, change is the one constant in the universe. You and your partner are not going to stay the same. The trick, the key is, how do we change together, and change in a way where we're still able to be viable partners for each other, even though maybe the way that we look at things is evolving.
Wow. I think you're spot on, man. Yep. That's true. Looking back over it, it was the change. Yeah. We changed. And my current wife, who's wonderful, we're doing well. I think that change, we do it together versus we start diverging in different directions. And we communicate enough so that the change it's predictable change, to where we're both sort of creating it together. It's, whether it's with a new business or whether it's with, I don't know, any personal interest, it's not a shock, and we both are behind the change. But I see what you're saying looking back. There was change that I guess kind of did certainly affect how things were. Yeah. Yeah. And I totally agree. Communication, man, when I've talked to, whether they're friends or family members too, I mean, I think everybody needs to know marriage and relationships are hard. They're hard. It's not like if you are struggling, you have problems, you're not unique. I mean, I think the most successful couples will go through times where they need to work on it or, yeah.
Well, we call it a bench clear. About once a month, we have a good, healthy, raising your voice bench clear. But what that does is, we don't hold things in and allow them to fester and you know create resentments. That might not be right for everybody. I'm not saying it's right anyway. I'm saying that's kind of sometimes our process. When either one of us feels we're not being heard, sometimes we turn the volume up, but we also make sure that we aren't going our separate ways for 3 days. We figure it out, and everybody needs to figure out what their process is. And you talked about that relationships are hard. Well, anything worthwhile is.
Sure.
And having a relationship that is something that is feeding your soul and that brings you happiness, it allows you to be meaningfully happy. And let me explain the difference. When you're quote unquote happy, as we define it in Western civilization, a lot of times what that means is we're looking for external things to make us feel good. You buy something, you feel good. You eat something, you feel good. You have sex with somebody that maybe you're not connected to. It feels good for a moment. But what I'm talking about is when you're meaningfully happy, you can be having a really shitty day, but you are still internally a happy person. You're just dealing with external things that happen to all of us, and they will continue to happen to all of us. And if you can create a balance in your life and in your relationship where it's not knocked off course by external things happening, then you become a very powerful person. And you become in the best possible way, a dangerous person. If you ever hear Jordan Peterson talk about it, if you're the kind of person that is not negatively swayed by external events, that's a very attractive, powerful thing. And I'm a huge proponent of the law of vibration. And the law of vibration says, everything has a vibration at the subatomic level, even a rock. Okay. But so do emotions and thoughts and words. And if you're able to be judicious and careful with your thoughts, emotions, and words, and be putting out a positive vibration, the universe doesn't have a dog in the hunt. It doesn't, it's not fair. It's not rooting for you and it's not against you. It just matches what you put out there. And if you're putting out a positive vibration, the universe matches it. Okay. And that goes for your relationship too. If the two of you are putting out a positive vibration, even though you might be circling the wagons and dealing with taxes and your kid's got a problem and maybe you're going to lose your job, whatever, but you still are able to put out that positive vibration, the universe is going to match it and you're going to get out of that situation much quicker than if you're putting out negativity.
Right on. Now, very well said. And I could not agree more. And I think more people need to hear that and practice it too, because it's easy. It's certainly we're in the victim of age, or the age of victimization. And, I'm a victim of this. I'm a victim of that. I'm entitled to this. A lot of stuff expect the environment to sort of solve their problem, or they're waiting on that other person to do something, but they don't create it on their own. It's not internally caused, like you're saying. It is that, yeah. So right on, man. I agree. Yep. So I'm running out of time, but dude, this is a fascinating conversation. Can you give us a quick, all right, so if I'm going to become, what's the first belt? Is it white to yellow belt? Is that sort of the first step?
Each book starts you at white. And so my suggestion is that, my suggestion would be that you start with Way of the Cobra, which is the first book. They're all terrific. You can read them standalone. I would suggest you read them, Way of the Cobra, then Welcome to the Kumite, which really quickly people say, what is Kumite?
Sure.
A lot of people know from the movie Bloodsport. It's an epic battle. It's the battle that you fight against your greatest opponent. Well, of course, your greatest opponent is you.
Yourself, right.
You defeat that opponent. You do it by having a metaphoric death every day. You extinguish the person you were yesterday to be a kinder, wiser, tougher, more compassionate version of who you were yesterday today. And then I take everything from the first two books and then I add it with my wife, Michelle, and then we have Way of the Cobra Couples. And Way of the Cobra also has an audio book. It's narrated by me. The other books are in Kindle. and you can get them all on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Or if you'd like to get an autographed copy, you can go to wayofthecobra.com.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely include all that information in the details and links below for sure, man. But all right, so I may have misunderstood you. All right, so it goes by belts in the way of the Cobra couple. So
it starts with white belt, takes you all the way through black belt, and then when you start the new book, we start again at white belt. And I say to my reader, I say, now look, you might be upset that you thought you earned your black belt, and you did. Now you're starting as a white belt, but you're a white belt, but not the same as the other white belt that you were, because now you have all of the knowledge from the previous book, and now it's time to start out on another journey, fresh and new. And I take you through black belt on that one, and then Michelle and I take you through black belt in Way of the Cobra Couples.
could you give us a glimpse, like what would a couple need to do to become a yellow belt? Is there like actions that they've taken to advance, or are they just happier and they decide, okay, I think we've made our life?
I'll tell you, one of the things that we talk about is you need to achieve a level of self-awareness. If you want to get involved in a relationship, you need to be ready for it. I don't believe that relationships happen serendipitously. They might seem like they do, but you need to be ready for one. And by that, I mean, if you're in your 20s and you're out there and you're dating lots of people and not wanting to be committed, that's great. You're supposed to do that in your 20s. But again, with the law of vibration, you're going to put out a vibration, and that's the kind of people you're going to attract. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of people. But when you achieve some self-awareness and you get a little older sometimes, and you know what you want and what you don't want, and now you're ready for a relationship, you'll start putting that vibration out, and you'll find that you attract a different group of people that are also looking for a relationship. And it will seem serendipitous when you meet somebody, but in reality, it's not, because you're putting out that vibration. And, I'm a big believer in the holisticness of life. And by that, I mean, it's kind of like the famous feudal swordsman Miyamoto Musashi, who said, from one thing, know 10,000 things. And by that, I mean, it's kind of like when you tell your kid, make the bed in the morning. Well, sure, you don't want their room to be a mess, but if they can make their bed in the morning, they have learned to get their first win of the day. They've finished making their bed. They've accomplished it. They've set their house in order to start the trajectory of their day. And if you can learn how to make your bed, you can learn how to be organized, and it helps with self-discipline in other areas. So, getting back to the holistic thing, I also am an acting teacher, and I tell my students who say, well, what do we do? I say, before you even worry about acting, I said, you need to become self-aware as to who you are. Before you start thinking about slipping on the skin of another character, you need to be comfortable in your own skin. And I talk about how to do that. And it's the same with a relationship. Before you go out there in the world and decide you want to meet Mr. and Mrs. Right, you need to have a pretty good relationship with yourself so that you're able to present who you really are, an accurate picture of your origin story, not sort of a shiny penny version of who you are, so that 2 months afterwards, all of a sudden, the relationship blows up. And it's because, if you're being really honest, you were kind of showing them the best and brightest of who you are, but not really the clearest picture of who you were. And so, it doesn't work out.
Got it. Okay, man. Well, cool. Well, Sean, man, this has been a fascinating conversation. Really, I appreciate, dude. It is amazing what you've done, because you had that opportunity with the Karate Kid, but then you've taken that and sort of did what Minamoto, I forgot the last name. Yeah, what it's done. You've created all these different entrepreneurial paths from it. So, congrats to all you've done. That's fascinating.
Appreciate that. And hold on, while we're plugging things, I gotta plug one last thing here, because I'm really proud of it.
All right.
New line of hot sauce right here. Bad Boy Hot Sauce, baby. And this is my new venture.
All right. Well, how do we get that? Is that in grocery stores, or do we order it from your website? How do we get it?
Right now, it's available on the website, which is badboyeats.com. We got 3 amazing flavors, and it is going to be coming to retail stores in 2025 and 2026. We just got back from the big food show in Las Vegas, which was just tremendous, and made a lot of good connections there, where we're going to be, we're in the process of putting deals together that's going to bring it to a wider audience. For right now, you can get it at badboyeats.com,
Bad Boy Eats.
at Amazon, and barnesandnoble.com.
Right on, man. All right, we will check those out and we'll post them here, sir.
Buy it.
Yeah. 5? I thought I read 4. Is it 5?
Well, I have 1 and my wife has 4, so we got the Brady Bunch.
I hear you, man. Well, good for you. Good for you. All right, Sean. Well, listen, thanks again for all your time and all of the advice and information that you gave us, okay?
All the best, man. Take care of yourself, man.
Yes, sir. You too. All right, everybody. Well, listen, I hope you enjoyed. That was fantastic advice that makes perfect sense, and I hope you take it and apply it and create a better you, create a better relationship, and a better life for yourself and those around you. So, everybody, thank you again for joining us on another Hines On Air. If you have not already, please click the subscribe button, leave us any comments, and share this video with your friends and family, and we will see you next time on Hines On Air.
Hines On Air is for you. Remember to subscribe, like, and leave a review whenever you listen to podcasts. Your support helps us reach more people and continue sharing these incredible stories.